Welcome back. The Justice Department opening an investigation into the University of California system over anti-Semitism allegations. It's just one of the Trump administration's latest responses to anti-Israel protests that have been erupting across college campuses since the start of the Israel-Hamas war. Justice Department Chief of Staff and Acting Associate Attorney General Chad Mizelle joins me now with more on this investigation. Chad, thanks so much for coming in on a Saturday. Really appreciate it. And right off the top, I just want to let our viewers know, when we talk about the University of California system, we are talking about the most elite public schools in the state of California: UCLA, UC Berkeley, UC San Diego, UC Santa Barbara. There are 10 of them in all. They are certainly the crown jewel of public education in California. Tell us about this investigation.
That's right, Anita. First off, thank you so much for having me. And I have to thank President Trump and his amazing Attorney General, Pam Bondi, my friend, my boss, for the honor of every single day being able to fight on behalf of the American people. And one of the key areas where we're fighting right now is to combat anti-Semitism across our college campuses. As you said, the UC system is one of the largest systems in the country. Over 250,000 faculty and staff, nearly 300,000 students are attending the UC system, elite institutions, Berkeley and UCLA. What they have done there is completely unacceptable. Anita, they stuck their head in the sand. They refused to act whenever acting was required in that circumstance. Put simply, they were being weak, and that weakness is a choice. And now they're going to have to answer for that choice. We are going to come and do an investigation into whether there is a pattern or practice of discrimination against Jewish and Israeli individuals. And if we find that, we're going to take strong action.
Well, I know you'll be looking for evidence, and when it comes to UCLA, why don't we just put that video up again? There's plenty of video of Jewish students being barred by these protesters from going to class. One student in particular, his name was Eli Civis. He made tons of videos, and they went viral all over the internet of how he could not attend class at UCLA. So when you say you're looking for violations of Title VII, is that a violation of Title VII? What are you looking for exactly?
Yeah, so with respect to Title VII, what we're really focused in on are faculty and staff. And did the university create a hostile work environment, an environment where Jewish professors, Israeli professors, were not welcome? So part of the evidence we're going to be looking at is some of the protests that happened. There's a high-profile one, the dean of the law school over at Berkeley, Chemerinsky. Protesters went to his house. They refused to leave whenever speakers were coming. We have evidence of, on listservs, faculty listservs, people saying outrageous things, pro-Hamas, pro-terrorist statements, essentially creating an environment where Jewish and Israeli faculty members were not welcome. That's the kind of evidence that we need to look for as part of our Title VII investigation.
And just quickly, if you find what you're looking for, what are the ramifications here? Could UCLA see what happened to Columbia happen to them and the stripping of funds, or what else?
Absolutely, Anita. This is the beauty of the cabinet that Donald Trump has built. We are all working together. I know that Attorney General Bondi is speaking daily with her counterparts at the State Department, at the Department of Education, at HHS, even at EEOC. Everybody's working together. And so right now what the UC system is facing is a series of private lawsuits on behalf of professors. There are EEOC charges that they're facing. The Department of Justice is launching an investigation. There's potential visa revocation issues from the Department of Homeland Security. And then on top of that, you have billions of dollars in funding from the Department of Education, Department of Health and Human Services, GSA, DOJ. It spans the gamut. And so whenever we're talking about what DOJ is doing here, it's just one small piece of the pie, all under the leadership of President Trump, to attack this problem and to make America safe again.
Okay, so certainly a lot on the table for these UC schools. We're going to be following this story for sure.
That's right.
I do want to switch gears quickly, though, and ask you about the Supreme Court decision this week. The Supreme Court backed an order forcing the administration to pay $2 billion in frozen foreign aid money. What is the Justice Department's reaction to that? It's a surprising ruling to some.
Anita, Yeah, it was surprising. Listen, we're certainly disappointed. I would encourage everybody to go out and read Justice Alito's dissent in that case. I've never seen such a strong dissent. I've never seen such a vicious takedown of a district court judge, and that's exactly what was appropriate here. We have an activist judge in DDC who is working against the administration and forcing us to put out potentially billions of dollars that are not going to be recoverable because these organizations are going to take them and run. That's exactly what Elon Musk and President Trump have uncovered, and that's the exact type of fraud, waste, and abuse that we're going to work and fight to prevent against. So you haven't heard the end of the story. We're not done here. We're going to keep fighting.
Okay. All right. Well, we're definitely watching that story as well. And one more before I let you go. Attorney General Pam Bondi says the FBI has turned over more evidence in the Jeffrey Epstein case, and she says she plans to release more of those files soon. So what can we expect to see?
That's right. The FBI did meet the deadline there. I think what you're going to see is a lot of what you've seen before, in the sense of you're going to see transparency. This is administration. Attorney General Bondi is committed to transparency. We haven't gone through all the documents yet, so we don't exactly know what we're going to find. But whatever we find, once we've redacted the victims' names, that is something that the Attorney General said on this network that she is going to turn over.
Yeah, we all heard that, so we are waiting to see that, and we'll see what happens there. All right, Chad Mizelle, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate your insight on this.